screen was black. The only sound was a low, rhythmic, wet thumping like a heart beating deep underwater. It was punctuated by a faint metallic scraping. In the endless night, at the very bottom of our world, life is not measured in sunrises, but in breaths drawn from stone. The image resolved from the black. We were in the crushing abyss of the deep sea. A submersible's light cut a frail beam through the eternal dark, illuminating swirling sediment. The camera panned slowly across a desolate plain of gray mud. This was the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, 4,000 meters below the surface. The pressure here would collapse a nuclear submarine. The temperature hovered just above freezing. There was no plant life. No sunlight had ever touched this place, and yet, this desert was a garden. The light caught a strange geometric pattern on the seafloor. It was a track, a perfect, repeating series of oval impressions, as if left by a machine. The architect of this garden left its signature in the mud. A trail of patient, relentless work. The camera followed the trail. It led to a rock, and nestled against it was the architect itself. It was a deep-sea holothurian, a sea cucumber. But not as you know it. This was the Mud Scribe, a creature of profound and silent industry. The Mud Scribe was a pale, almost translucent gray, a 6-inch-long cylinder of soft flesh against the immense, hard darkness. It moved with a slowness that was almost geological. Its front end was not a face, but a broad, shovel-like foot. It pressed this foot into the ooze, and with a peristaltic pulse of its body, it took a deliberate, granular bite of the seafloor. Its world was its food. It was a conveyor belt of mud. It consumed the barren sediment, and in its gut it performed an act of alchemy. It separated the infinitesimal, a speck of digested plankton, a fragment of a shell that sank from a world miles above, from the worthless. It was a miner, sifting for gold dust in an infinite desert. In a blur of purpose, it moved across the frame, and behind it, it left not waste, but a trail of meticulously cleaned, sorted sand. The track was its legacy, the transformed earth. But this was not mere eating. This was farming. By turning over the seafloor, the Mud Scribe aerated it. It created a fertile patchwork in the desert, a haven for bacteria and tiny worms. It was the unknowing steward of its entire ecosystem, a plowshare in the dark. Nearby, another silent citizen stood watch, a bizarre stalked anemone, rooted to a pebble like a pale, spectral flower. It was utterly still, the abyssal sentinel. It had not moved in decades, perhaps a century. Its entire existence was a bet placed on a single, improbable event. It waited. Its body was a living net, cast in the hope that a single speck of nourishment, a marine snow flake of dead matter, would drift into its grasp. Its metabolism was so slow, its heartbeat so rare, that time itself seemed to have forgotten it. This was not patience. This was an entirely different relationship with existence. A sudden disturbance. The sediment cloud swirled. A shapeshifter of the abyss, a vampire squid, drifted into frame. It was all cloak and red eyes, a phantom of the midwater. It investigated the sentinel with a curious filament, then, finding it inedible, vanished back into the void. The sentinel did not flinch. It did not react. The passing terror was not worth the energy of response. To feel fear was a luxury of the sunlit world. We returned to the Mud Scribe. It continued its work, a tiny engine of order in the chaos. The submersible's light, a temporary and alien star in its sky, passed over it. The creature paid it no mind. The great eye of science observed it, but the scribe was only aware of the next mouthful of mud, the next beat of its simple, vital heart. We come to these depths in our loud, bright machines searching for monsters. We expect drama, but the true story of the abyss is not one of violence, but of exquisite slowness, of economies of energy so strict that a single movement must be justified for a decade. It is a world where the greatest act of courage is simply to persist, to process the inedible into the edible, to wait, to breathe. The Mud Scribe would never know the sun. It would never know a predator that considered it prey. It would only know the next grain of sand, the next beat of its own heart, the next inch of its endless, fruitful journey through the dark. It was the unheard heartbeat of the planet, the quiet, constant plow of the deep, and its work, unseen and uncelebrated, helps write the story of life itself. The camera pulled back. The submersible's light shrank to a single point, then winked out. The Mud Scribe was alone again in the perfect, crushing, silent dark. The only sound was the low, rhythmic thumping of its existence.